Hi everyone, welcome back to the Christmas episode, the Christmas podcast of Cackling Jack's group of merry minstrels.
We haven't done any caroling yet. Just wait till we get started.
Yet. So yes, my name is Lindsay, and I am a Christmas addict, as we kind of started to talk about in the last section. I'm a relatively new convert to the horror genre, and when you put Santa and Christmas into the whole magic journey, I am right there on the magic sleigh.
At SantaCon, and you're right there on the magic sleigh for possibly chemical reasons, but, you know.
Correct. And just a small tangent. At SantaCon this year, there was a sleigh that just said "ho" on it. Because part of SantaCon is supposed to be really slutty, and it was a shopping cart decked out in Christmas lights, and all these, drunk girls were just riding around in it. They were riding it.
Mm-hmm. All right, that's right. And so of course, the traditional greeting when you greeted the Christmas hoes was to pass by the sleigh, take a little bow, and say "ho ho ho."
Correct. So, note to everybody out there: if you haven't been to a SantaCon, go, because it's amazing. So, anyway, Merry Krampusmas to everyone. So this whole idea of Santa as a monster, Santa as a pirate zombie, it's totally amazing, right?
Yes.
Agreed.
And the question of why it's amazing and why it should be happening, again, I think it's, sating a bloodlust in us that we have now for violence, for just needing things in movies, in media, in politics, on the internet, everywhere, to just be bigger, badder, faster, scarier, more. Whether it's Santa or Krampus, I think this Krampus movie sounds like it's working really well within this faster, more, better vein, and I'm really excited about it after hearing Sherry and Mike talk about it. And so I'm gonna hand it over to all of y'all, and what are your thoughts on this subject of Santa as monster, Santa as psycho killer, Santa as the devil?
Which one of us do you want to go first?
I have the curling champion, son of the devil, please.
I'm sorry. It is an open question. Anyone? Bueller? Anyone?
Bueller.
Anyone?
Mac, go. Tell us why you love
for me, I guess what really resonates with this, the idea of Santa being an entity of evil, it's really right there in the details. I mean, you look at some of these Christmas carols, just the idea that Santa is, just one rung below the NSA. He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He knows if you've been bad or good, so for goodness sake. So he's got a lot of influence. He's got a lot of eyes and ears everywhere. And it's just that very Big Brother McCarthyist paranoia that it strikes me as kind of amusing behind this, this big red jelly menace.
Red jelly menace.
Sherry, what have you taken away from the idea of Santa Claus as terrible monster?
Well, you know, I've actually always kind of considered Santa Claus as being not a very nice person because of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Agreed.
That's a good point. What a jackass.
That is a really good point.
This little
and the same
reindeer,
for all the other reindeers.
he's trying his hardest. He's being ostracized.
Yes.
And this person who's supposedly all about caring and goodness and, you know, generosity for everyone, he only wants to use Rudolph when it's useful. I mean, when it benefits him in some way. And so, I mean, that's just like, I think as a kid, I understood. I would listen to the friggin' Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer carol, and I'd get really upset about it. I'd be very upset, maybe because I was tormented as a child, and I kind of related with Rudolph. I'm like, well, you only want him now?
Right.
Why do you only want him now? What's wrong with him before? I mean, you had the red nose before.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't want him then.
Right, exactly.
You're a jerk, Santa.
Exactly. And I think about that when I watch the special, the claymation
Rankin
special.
and Bass.
Like, yeah. Which I watch every year, of course, because I really do love Christmas, you guys. Like, it's bad.
Oh, no, I watched The Grinch Who Stole Christmas. Frankly, The Grinch is nicer character to me than Santa.
That's super interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and getting back to the Rankin and Bass one, it's not a supernatural Santa thing, but I'm surprised we couldn't label it as a Christmas horror film, because maybe it's just because of the creative team, but that one is very weird and goes off in some very weird directions. And I think that things get so normalized once they become a tradition that you don't notice how goddamn weird they are sometimes.
The Abominable Snowman.
The Abominable Snowman.
How much acid do you have to take for the heat miser? Who came up with that one?
I don't know. Most of those productions back then, I think, were a result of whatever was in the drugs at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And these people were taking these drugs and going, "This would be awesome for a kids show, man."
Right.
No.
Yeah, I was thinking, especially in that one, the Island of Misfit Toys always freaked me out as a kid.
That broke my heart.
Yeah, they have a little mournful song about how broken they all are. I'm like, what the hell is this? An internment camp? A leper colony?
Right.
That's what it is. That's exactly what it is. For people who are not wanted. These are the people that, the dictator of North Korea has shipped off.
Right.
To live on this tiny little island alone because there's something wrong with them in other people's eyes.
Right.
In the dark, on a night when everybody else in the world is together, having a great time. They're around this little campfire, mourning the fact that they are alone and that nobody wants them or needs them or even knows that they exist,
Yeah.
So I think having a darker Santa, darker kind of entity is kind of acknowledging all of the actual dark side that really does exist in Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, not to get all religious on you here, but I'm gonna, if you're gonna go with the whole original Christmas tradition as far as Christianity goes, Jesus is the one who brought light into the world, not Santa.
What?
Sorry.
Well,
Sorry.
And it's a really weird goddamn mix, the kind of Christmas we've ended up with, where you have all these, I think as we've teased out, kind of pagan, hearth, old school traditions all kind of mashed together. And then you try to smush that in Northern European cultures into what happens, in the Gospel of Luke. And it's like, these things, they do not have anything to do with each other. And the fact that we make a holiday out of both of them and then have weird cultural fights over how much Jesus there should be in it. And one of the reasons that people get upset sometimes that Christmas is not Christmassy enough and not Jesus-y enough is that there are not enough Christmas trees or something in the mall. I'm like, this is insane. You have gone mad.
or that there aren't enough, that the Starbucks cups are not Christmassy enough.
Oh God! Oh,
I
dear
mean,
Lord, just drink your $7
come on, people. It
cappuccino.
is
Leave
a
me alone.
paper
don't,
cup
and
that
leave
you were
good
going to
coffee.
throw away.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
But let's not get too
Anyway.
far into that. But yeah.
Just kidding. Just
But yeah,
kidding.
Sherry,
Yes.
that is interesting. That
Mhm.
there is
The pagan traditions came from the idea of this darkness, and it was a much darker time, and blah 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 blah. If you want to, really, even when Jesus came into the world and Christianity was born, it was still very dark. And
didn't the emperor kill all the babies in
Mhm.
anticipation?
Yes.
Yeah, King
Yeah.
Herod. Although that wasn't a thing that actually happened, but it's in the Bible. That's that's the Bible.
Yeah, it's in the Bible, so
There's a song
obviously it
about
must be. And there was also no actual call for taxation purposes or census that was called that originally set Joseph and Mary off on their trip to Bethlehem in the first place.
Mhm.
There's no record of that in the Roman historical records, which were very carefully kept. So there's been controversy over that.
True.
I know. The good book did tell me so, but the whole idea of these. They tried so hard because they wanted to convert the good people in these these pagan cultures over to Christianity, and so they wound up doing what you said, Mike. They just kind of mushed it all together, and what came out of it is what we've got. And then, of course, once we started going into the direction of commercializing things, which I mentioned in my little bit, it was just really the 1800s, late 1800s was when the real first movement for commercialization came. That's when all of these, traditional, the Krampus, Santa Claus himself, all of these things were turned into a means for profit.
Mhm.
And I think that's kind of how we got to where we are today. So being able to take, what has been branded literally as being this really chipper and bright time and saying, no, it's going to kill you. And I think it kind of helps bring us back to where we started even.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Is that if you got something in Santa's sleigh or SLAY, I made it sound like you were putting something post sleigh. It's very confusing. But if you've got something like Santa's sleigh, or you've got something more serious like the Krampus film, you're right. That's a good point. Where you're basically punishing people who are cruel or greedy or short-sighted or commercialized. You're kind of punishing the modern version of the sins of not being a good member of the community, which is exactly what these characters were kind of meant to do in the first damn place. So that is interesting that we're kind of, in making these irreverent takes on the character, we're kind of returning them to where they belonged in the first place.
Yeah,
I hadn't thought of
exactly.
it that way. That's pretty cool.
So that's kind of why I like it, because I'm such a history nerd and I love that kind of thing. So understanding the history behind it, and that kind of makes me appreciate the darker side a lot more.
Yeah. And speaking of history and the historical element of the whole thing, which is everything, I wondered about this lyric in the song that we all know and love. It's the most wonderful time of the year. The lyric starts off very, light and fluffy. There'll be parties for hosting, marshmallows for toasting, and caroling out in the snow. And then, which kind of sucks, actually, yeah. Especially if it's the 18th or 19th century, and just things were tricky, right?
I was thinking more for the tone deaf people like me, but yes.
Sure.
Right.
Well, all of it.
Struggle is real.
But then it gets weird, and it says there'll be scary ghost stories and tales of the glories of Christmases long, long ago. So, and that's another thing that I want to talk about, because it's something that I think about a lot, is the tales of the glories from long, long ago. Like they've been wanting to reminisce about those times since the beginning of time, it seems. So when were those times? Like, so did these times ever exist? And so it's not just Santa that's imaginary. Sorry, everyone. Spoiler alert. It's this idea that Christmas is this magical time where everything is hunky-dory and everybody is happy and everybody, you know, has enough money to get the turkey, and we're all together and we're all drinking and having a great time, which, you know, that's always been a myth. So there's that. So, but going back to this idea of scary ghost stories, it's like, where does this come from? And in my little bit of putting it in the goobs, as is my new term, I put it in the goobs. The goobs. And
I call it googly moogly.
Googly moogly, everybody's got their own term.
Googly moogly. It's actually, you know, really strongly tied to Charles Dickens and, you know, A Christmas Carol, and obviously those three ghosts. So I found that really pretty interesting because, again, it's this weird lyric in the middle of this really jubilant song about the celebratory nature of the holiday. And also, you know, some other things that kind of contributed to a lyric like this was that, as Sherry kind of was talking about before, you know, the 19th century, the Industrial Revolution, the printing press, and so, you know, books are being printed, and so people are reading more. And there's also, in the 19th century, of course, classic Gothic literature.
And you also had some of the real life stuff, like you had Jack the Ripper, Whitechapel murders going on around this time as well.
That too. So Jack the Ripper, Frankenstein, Dracula, that is all going on in this century. So, so there are your ghost stories. And so, and you know, also Krampus is not obviously a ghost, but he's definitely from somewhere else. He's from, you know, a place that we often associate with ghosts, hell, and you know,
hell, or the dark forest, or the high mountains, which cracks me up because Sherry's already mentioned the Grinch, so now I'm picturing a funny cartoon.
Yes.
I'm picturing Krampus's cave as being right next to his.
Yeah, and they have arguments.
That's amazing.
Oh, we could have an odd couple
so funny.
We could make an odd couple show, Grinch and Krampus, neighbors.
That would be hysterical.
I can't like the red Krampus. I'll have to move in with you. Wah wah. My dog.
Or
Sorry.
instead of Max the dog, who is he's such an amazing counterpoint to the Grinch because nothing gets him down. He is, you know, I mean,
he was so abused.
So abused. The Grinch treats him like crap. And he's just, you know, he's a dog. He doesn't care. He's just like, let's ride this sleigh. I am on. Yeah. And, you know, yeah, he gets a little overwhelmed by the snow once the Grinch, you know, yanks him from the back of the sleigh. But he gets over that. And then, of course, by the end, it's just a total love fest. So, yay, Max. But yes, wouldn't it be amazing if instead of Max, the Grinch had Krampus?
Oh my God.
Yeah, right? But
I
then,
wasn't sure where you were going with that, and now
I wasn't either.
and I wasn't either until it just kind of came together. But then if Krampus was, you know, the Grinch's pet, the Grinch probably never would have, you know, his heart would have never grown 3 sizes that day.
3 sizes, too big.
That would
And
just
also-
go back.
Yeah, and also Whoville would not exist anymore.
Yes, I think he would have packed up little Mary Lou Who into his bag and dropped her off the cliff.
True.
It wouldn't be called How the Grinch Stole Christmas, sort of. It would be called the Whopocalypse.
Yes.
The apocalypse.
But no, and I think that before we got diverted into the Whopocalypse, you were making a very good point. That my take on the whole thing is kind of that Christmas is a time of judgment. It's you know, whenever we're encouraged to believe in the Coca-Cola Santa, as we call him, in the Miracle on 34th Street Santa, the spirit of generosity, the spirit of giving, the spirit of, you know, warmth and plenty.
Not so much.
It always comes with this little, I think that in the Krampus movie, Krampus was at least once called Santa's shadow.
Yes.
And what I think of the whole thing is exposing why we make these monster movies, why we make these jokes, kind of why we have these urges to kind of make sense of the darkness that's inherent in this, because Santa comes with the lump of coal is the nice sanitized version of this, but Santa inherently comes with generosity, community, love, plenty, unless you don't get it. Unless you're the one who's outside of the fire, unless you're the one who's outside of the community, unless you're like Scrooge and you're despised or you're some kind of unfairly ostracized. If you don't make it home for Christmas. I always thought, as long as we talk about classic Christmas carols, one of my favorite lyrics from one was always that have yourself a merry little Christmas lyric. Someday soon we'll all be together if the fates allow. Until then we'll have to muddle through somehow. And that's kind of like the hint of the fact that, you know, Christmas is a dark, cold time.
Exactly.
And, you know, you can cite the statistics that people do around Christmas. There's this many more drunk driving accidents. There's this many more suicides. There's this many more divorces, because it's not just a time of, you know, calculating everything that's happened in the last year and saying, hey, it's great. Let's come together as a community and have a party. We've done well. Things are good.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, you know, end up with a minus sign at the end of that ledger.
Right.
And yeah, the kind of generosity of Santa Claus is a reminder that that generosity is conditional. And the modern version
Comes
is
with a price.
Comes with a price. And the modern version is kids eat your vegetables. But, you know, the version that Charles Dickens teased out and the version that we kind of talk about, joke about, get scared about, and have really funny slapstick about is that sometimes you're not the person who gets the presents. And that can and then the old world, when they were sitting around telling scary ghost stories about the Krampus and Black Peter and all these other things, that was a thing of real consequence. You know, if you weren't in the warm house, if you weren't welcome in the fire, if you weren't welcome at the Christmas party, that was kind of the end of you. So I think that, and also as Max said, so much of that has survived in the fact that, you know, we sing happily about Santa spying on us and sneaking into our houses to judge our children. What the hell? And I also thought of, you know, there's all these little rituals of appeasement. You know, we leave out the milk and cookies.
Cookies, yes.
And the carrots for the reindeer.
And it used to be that people leave out their shoes. And
yeah, exactly. The shoes full of presents for St. Nicholas. And kids, you know, the stereotypical, like if you're writing a hack movie, a kid starts his letter, Dear Santa, and lots of kids really do, Dear Santa Claus, first, I've been very, very good this year.
Yep.
You know, you start out plea bargaining. You start out kind of saying, I'm worthy of you. I'm begging of you. Kind of like Rudolph, which thank you for bringing out how dark that is.
Yes, thank
Rudolph,
you.
is unfairly kicked out, and the first thing that he wants is to please Santa and get him back. That's
Right.
Even though
a tyrannical relationship.
Santa don't owe him shit, and yet he's still going.
even though Santa knows that the other reindeers are treating Rudolph like this, and he doesn't do anything. He doesn't do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
Not until the night when it's foggy, and then he says, "Hey, Rudolph,
That's right.
get your help with something."
Yeah. So even Rankin Bass Santa, even Coca-Cola Santa has all these rituals and little habits that we have that we just accept as cute and normal, which basically amount to kind of kneeling in front of a pagan god and begging him to judge you favorably and begging him to let you continue to live and have plenty and let the corn grow this season. And we really haven't outgrown that. And
So Santa's the Wicker Man, pretty much.
Yeah. He's Wicker Man with the candy cane.
mm-hmm.
That's what Santa Claus is.
Picture a giant Christmas village with Nicolas Cage on fire in the middle of it. Thank you.
Giant version of Santa and a wicker.
Put him in with the gingerbread cookies.
Yes.
But Mike, going back to what you were saying about, being left out of the community, left out of the fire, like there's totally a modern version of that where, kids whose families don't have a lot of money are, wondering, oh, well, my friend at school got an Xbox and I got shit, like
I must be bad.
I must be bad. Like Santa must not love me.
Mm-hmm.
Santa must think I've been bad. I have not pleased the God of presents for some reason, and I don't know why. Because as a kid, you're just kind of you're in your environment. You're doing hopefully what you think is hopefully you are being good, because being good is, presents or not, it's a good way to be. And so when you've been how you think you're supposed to be, and it's in a way not good enough because you didn't get your Xbox, you didn't get whatever, that's a mind fuck. That's like, what am I doing wrong? As an 8-year-old kid, what am I doing wrong here?
Yeah.
Just not measuring up, little Timmy. Try again next year.
Correct.
But then again, that's the kind of circumstances that gives us Father Christmas by the Kinks, which is probably my favorite Christmas song. So it works out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I think this has been one of our more successful episodes in figuring out what the heck it is we're being afraid of and what the heck it is we're being funny about. And I hope that the current boom in Scary Christmas continues, because
yes,
people like it. It makes for very good stories, and it sounds like it's the story we were supposed to be telling all along. So, very scary Christmas to you all.
Scary Christmas, everybody.
Good fright.
Oh.
So, Mac, I believe you had a challenge for the group.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I would like for you, because, well, since we've kind of discussed non-traditional Christmas movies, I think it would be a pretty interesting idea to go ahead and suggest Christmas viewing that may not necessarily fall under the horror category, but yet is not traditionally thought of as a Christmas movie.
Mm-hmm. So, Sherry, would you like to go first?
Am I going to steal the one that everybody wants to do?
I think we're all quick on our feet. We can come up with other ones.
Okay. The ultimate one is Die Hard. Christmas party goes wrong as the as the terrorists take over the building.
Oh my!
And probably one of the all-time great action movie villains ever conceived.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And
Mystery
actually,
schools.
yeah, and of course, with the rise of the internet and the recognition that it should be one of the secretly greatest Christmas movies of all time, I've actually seen at Ugly Sweater events this year, Ugly Sweaters.
Ho, 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 I have a machine gun.
Yeah, now I have a machine gun, ho, 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 in red paint.
Welcome to the party, pal. But yeah, that's my input.
Mhm.
Always a good choice. Always a good choice. How about for you, Lindsay? What would be your pick?
I don't know. This is a tricky question. I'm gonna have to suspend my answer here because there's just so many.
Okay, not a problem. Not a problem. How about you, Mike?
The one that came to mind right away for me was Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which was a great old Robert Downey Jr., for those who haven't seen it, and Val Kilmer.
So good, yes.
Kind of bumbling spy caper farce kind of thing. That is hilarious and witty as hell and pretty damn dark. And I can't even begin to summarize the plot or why anyone's doing what they're doing, but it all centers around a series of Christmas parties and all the different capers and all the different people involved in all of the hijinks and the murders and the conspiracies and trying to figure out what's going on. Keep meeting each other at different holiday parties in Los Angeles. And it's a pretty damn great movie. If you hadn't seen it, pick it up and notice all the Christmas music in the background while the most dark and strange and funny things are happening.
Well, that's a habit of Shane Black, too, is that almost all of his movies can be considered Christmas movies.
Yeah. And as soon as you say that, it's like, okay, yeah. And it's like Iron Man 3, Christmas movie. There's a Marvel Christmas movie. Robert Downey Jr. again, too.
Yes.
He has the weirdest Christmases.
Oh, and they're always usually some of the most entertaining Christmases, though.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing... Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead, Lindsay. Go ahead.
So the thing that keeps popping into my mind is there's at least a Christmas scene in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
Soldier Spy,
Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And,
That's a good one.
like, it's Christmas, people are having a great time, but, you know that somebody in that room is,
Gonna die.
gonna die, A. B, is, working undercover for the other side, or, he's the mole. He has infiltrated. So there's this, again, there's a darkness there where, it looks very festive and everybody's having a great time, but there is mischief afoot.
And that's definitely a movie where you have to really pay attention because every little nuance, every mannerism.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I got a question. If that one, can center a couple of key plot points around a Christmas party, why the hell didn't they do the spy who came in from the cold? Sorry.
I don't know.
I'm trying the title sounds familiar, but I'm drawing a
Oh
blank.
no, it's another John le Carré book. It's
Oh, all right.
Well, no wonder.
from the cold and got eggnog.
Sure.
And for my pick, I have to go with one of the all-time great car chases, The French Connection, with Gene Hackman
Yes.
and
Yeah.
Scheider.
Oh, great movie.
Every time I meet someone, I always have the need to ask them, did they ever pick their feet in Poughkeepsie? It's just yeah.
What would be the Christmas moral of that one?
Don't do drugs.
Right.
Aw. Boo.
Well, those are all very good ones. And I noticed that they're all some kind of blend of crime, spy, or action movies. So,
Yeah.
Because that's not what you would consider to be a traditional Christmas kind of setting.
Yeah, I'm
Or-
just pointing out that even when this group isn't doing horror, we rack up quite the body count.
Yeah, it's not worth it otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, what are we even doing here? No bodies.
Makes a point.
Merry Christmas, you filthy animal.
Which is not, that's not even a real movie, guys.
No, it's not.
Oh, no, it's not. No.
It's terribly disappointing.
Terribly disappointing.
It should be. I think it should be made just based on that clip
Right?
from. And then whoever makes it should just create this whole film just based on that clip alone.
Mhm.
That'd be
So
awesome.
whoever's out there on the internet, it's easier than ever these days. Someone please make Merry Christmas, you filthy animal.
Filthy animal.
Oh, it was, I think it was Angels with Dirty
Keep
Souls.
the change, you filthy animal.
You've got at least an audience of 4.
Yes.
At least. And you know that there are more people.
There'd be more.
Yeah.
Every child from our generation.
That's right.
Yep.
As
Hey,
much as I hate
funny.
Home Alone, I would love to see a movie based out of that movie within the movie, though.
I am not a huge fan either, but
That's my guilty. I love it.
I kind of am not. But I'm somewhere in the middle.
I think of Home Alone, and I just think of the sight gag from The Critic.
We left Kevin home alone, and he's only 23!
That sounds like a horror film.
It does.
Have you seen Macaulay Culkin lately?
He looks like a second, like an understudy for a horror film.
He's Kurt
I don't-
Cobain's stunt double.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Macaulay Culkin aside, I think that going off, we've talked a bunch on this podcast about the problem of recent bland-ass horror remakes of things that didn't really need to be remade. Let me propose just straight-up horror remake of Home Alone would be great.
Yeah.
If they were actual serious killers.
They
Yeah,
actually
there's
did.
three
They actually
killers.
did. There was actually a movie like that called, I think, The Collector, where a cat burglar breaks into the house of a serial killer, and the killer's house is just full of all these traps.
What is this movie called?
It's called The Collector. It's from the guys who did Saw.
Oh, God.
Oh, I can't watch Saw, but okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna write it down even though it's a bad idea to do so.
Oh, the idea sounds amazing.
It's genius.
Home Alone 5, so many corpses.
Yes.
And with that,
Change,
I
you
think
filthy
that
animal.
with that, I think we can bid the world a very scary and a very Merry Christmas.
Absolutely. And until the next time, everybody.
Until next time, all of you guys have a great winter. And Lindsay, I hope you get to the
Stay
film.
alive. Stay
Mhm.
alive. Don't,
Yep.
don't
Yep.
incite the Krampus.
Merry Krampus, everyone!
It's Christmas in heaven, there's great films on TV. The Sound of Music, twice an hour, and Jaws 1, 2, and 3.
There's gifts for all the family.